Greetings, Patrick here. 31 Days of Halloween, 2023. Me and the Cheetah, we're figuring out what to watch for our 31 Days of Halloween. Some of the number counts might be off. I've tried to fix it, but this is day 27 out of 31. And we're trying to figure out what to watch. And I told Paladin that two of our favorite movies that we reviewed so far on this list have come from, well, where else, right? IFC Midnight. So I said, well, why don't we go back? Because it's not like we don't have any IFC Midnights. We have a few. And so he agreed with that. So we decided to watch this movie and talk about it. And so glad that we did. So the movie that we're going to be talking about today is 2016's Beyond the Gates, which stars Barbara Crampton, Chase Williamson, Graham Skipper, and Brea Grant. It was co-written by Jackson Stewart and Steve Scalata and directed by Jackson Stewart. And the movie opens up with we see a happy family. They're getting ready to open up a business, and they're there for the grand opening. And we see a mom and a dad and two small boys, and it's a video business. And so we see them, and the family's happy, and then we segue away from that to now, and we meet Gordon and his brother John, and Gordon is the responsible brother. He has a job and buying a house and doing pretty well for himself, and John's been sort of struggling. He's just been bumping along. So they had with no focus. So they've been a bit estranged as well, but they reunite because they decide they're going to settle up their father's affairs. He's been missing. He's been missing for 7 months. So they decide that he's dead. That was a little weird. I have to tell you right now when you hear that, because it's actually legally 7 years. A person has to be completely gone without any sort of movement for 7 years before you can legally declare them dead, not 7 months. I think this was I don't think this was a plot point. I just think they didn't know this, because if they didn't, it's a really huge plot point, and I don't think they made that mistake on I don't think they I just didn't think they knew. Anyway. So what they do is they go ahead and they're going to have to go and clean up all their father's affairs, clean and sell the house, clean out the business, and whatnot. So they start doing that. The store is massive and it has nothing but VHS tapes on it. It's from the 80s. The father never really upgraded his store, so all you see was just a ton of VHS tapes. So they go ahead and they start doing that, and then we also find out that Gordon's girlfriend Margot is going to be coming to staying them with a few days to offer support. So they decide that she gets in, and they decide Gordon and Margot decided they're going to go to get something to eat. And so they go to a little pub, but then John and his obnoxious friend Hank show up as well, and Hank's just a complete asshole, and John doesn't really rein him in too much, and so Gordon and Margot decide to say screw it, and they bail. So they're at the house, and Gordon wakes up. He wakes up at 3:13 in the morning. This becomes a recurring theme in this movie. He wakes up at 3:13, he hears a noise, and he gets up and he thinks he sees something outside, but he doesn't. He thinks he does, but then when he gets back in the bed, there's a key on top of the table next to the bed, and it says office. So the next day, the brothers are back, and they're cleaning, and it seems a little bit stressed, strained because of the day before, and so Gordon tries to lighten the mood a little bit by saying, "Guess what I found?" So he finds a key, and they go inside the office, and they find a box. They find a game called Beyond the Gates. So it's a VHS game. This was pretty popular back for a while, and so they take it home to play it. And when they do, they put the tape on, and all of a sudden we see Barbara Crampton's looking back at us, and looking good too. Believe me, that woman has aged like fine wine. So she tells them, but the game comes on. She tells them what they have to do, and that includes they have to risk their very souls to play the game. And of course, the brothers are a little bit weirded by that. So they don't play it. They just like, okay, this is sort of weird. And then that evening, John comes over and joins Gordon and Margot for some food. And Gordon finds out basically that John is pretty much homeless right now because, he's a bit of a slacker. He's a hard worker, but he's just not very focused. So they go ahead and the three of them, they start talking about this game, Beyond the Gates, and a little bit they play it a little bit more and more and more, and then finally they're basically being told to and the game starts showing supernatural abilities, like not coming on when least expected. Only the people who are designed to play the game can see it. Their friend Derek, who's a cop, comes over, and only thing he sees is just, he sees snow. He doesn't see anything. Even though they're telling him, well, there's a woman right there. You can't see her, and he can't because he's not playing the game. So they have to play the game. They have to find 4 keys. They have to find 4 keys in order to save their souls, and maybe somebody else's too. So this, after resisting for a while, they slowly get into it, and they start playing it, and it comes at a high cost. The game is not nearly as innocent as it seems to be, and the brothers and Margot have to fight really hard to stay in it because they don't want to. They have to finish it. They also meet the salesman who sold the game to their dad. They found a receipt, and they go ahead and they bring, they talk to the store owner, and he says, well, you can't really return it. It's been a long time. 1991 he bought it, and it's been a long time. And so the brothers are a little bit perplexed. And then on the way out, John steals a knife that he looked like he saw on the game. So he steals a knife, and they go home, and things continue to go forward. They keep on starting and stopping the game. They can never play it all the way through. And finally, they're basically forced to do so. They have to rescue Margot because now she's trapped in there. So the brothers team up and they go down the basement and Beyond the Gates. All right. Well, I can't tell you anything more than that, otherwise it'll ruin it. But I got to tell you, this is one of the most ambitious movies I've seen in quite a while. It was made for little money. I mean, it's a love letter to the 80s, for one thing. Oh my gosh, this is so 80s. On video, the music was perfect. The settings was perfect. The budget was perfect. I was actually thinking, man, if they would have had a real budget for this movie, oh my God. But you know what? I was thinking about that when I was doing this review, and I kept on thinking, like, I'm glad they didn't, because it really impresses you more that how much that Jackson Stewart got for the little that he had. And if you go back to the 80s and the 90s movies on video, or even USA Up All Night or beyond that, you can see how little budget a lot of those movies were made. You hear the term, it doesn't hold up well. A lot of it had to do with the budget, because they didn't have that much. The effects didn't have all that much. They couldn't afford all that much. And so some of these movies just don't hold up that well because they didn't have, even back then, they didn't have the effects and the tech that they needed to make a big movie. So this Beyond the Gates really looks like this could have came from the 80s. Like I said, the music, the sets. I mean, you'll go down to the basement. I mean, you're looking at it and going like, "Are you kidding me?" But it works. It absolutely works. And really, what you're paying attention to more than anything else, you're paying attention to the relationship between John and Gordon. That's really the heart of this movie, is the two brothers and finding their way back to each other and what caused them to break apart in the first place. And we also got to figure out a little bit about the dad. The dad was looking for something as well, and did he find it or not? We don't know. We don't know. We just know that Gordon and John are they're looking for answers, any answers. I like the acting in this film a lot. I thought Barbara Crampton was great as the hostess, though I couldn't understand how Stewart she seemed more as a helpful host, like she wanted them to win, even though nobody really had, but she was encouraging them to win. But at the same time, he sort of like when they sort of like she went from being a helper to not so friendly, and there was no reason given why that was, because she was helpful, and that was a little bit disconcerting. It was like, well, wait a minute, I thought she was sort of like on their side a little bit. It's like, like you have to play, and these are the rewards that you can get. You could save somebody's soul, you could save your own souls, so go ahead and let's get this cracking. But at the same time, it's like once the game resolves itself, all of a sudden she gives out this horrible scream and she fades away. And it's like, well, wait a minute, that's a little confusing. I like the two brothers. I had never seen Graham Skiffer before, so he was new to me. But he was really good as the older brother. Chase Williamson, I've seen before. He did a great movie called John Must Die at the End, or John Dies at the End, which was a great movie. That's a twisty one too, but it's a great one, and it has him and Paul Giamatti of all people. It's a sci-fi movie. It's a cool movie. This is the first time I saw Bray Grant, and I thought she was really charming as well. Very pretty too, very pretty girl. I know this movie's a little older. I went to look and see what Jackson Stewart has been doing. He's done this movie, and he wrote an episode of Supernatural, and that's been it. When I try to look up anything else, it just says that he's possibly thinking about doing a sequel to Beyond the Gates. I think that's a good idea, because this movie with a legit budget, man, it could be sort of like Jumanji, a little bit, but a lot darker, if that's possible. This movie has special features on it, including a commentary, a director's commentary, cast and crew, director's commentary. So highly recommend it for getting that. You don't get that too much on an IFC Midnight release. So you can get this at any secondary markets. Hamilton Book. I got my copy through a trade with my good buddy Hobbs, his best friend Gary from Gary's Movie Emporium. He hooked us up, and I was able to get a trade out of Gary. Thanks for that, Hobbs. So yeah, that's Beyond the Gates. I highly recommend it. It's a lot of fun. Of course, some people that are much younger than us, they might not get it. Like anybody today under 30, they probably won't see the nostalgia. But us who are older, who was around in the 80s, we know what we're watching. We know what we're seeing, and this is a beautiful love letter to that era. So highly recommend Beyond the Gates. All right, that is day 27 of 31 Days of Halloween. We will be back with day 28. Peace.